what a save.
She gets around Dunbar, out wide, but she puts it in the net. Lovely strike, lovely bit of play.
Oh, and he's looking to catch the goalkeeper out. It is an unbelievable goal.
Hello and welcome to Kick Off, the official podcast of NPL New South Wales and Football New South Wales Leagues competitions. I'm Pellizzeri, joined here by Annabelle Banfield. Annabelle, great to see you.
Great to be back on. I'm keen to get into things today.
Very exciting start to the season. We've had 5 rounds of men's, just the 1 rounds of women's. It feels like only yesterday we were here doing the season preview for the women's. And if you haven't heard either of the season previews yet, make sure you subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and you can go back and listen, and you can judge us by what we predicted teams to do. But you must be feeling pretty good after 1 week. You were out commentating as well at the Western Sydney Wanderers inaugural NPL game. How did you find the very first round and your first call of the NPL women's season?
I think it was really exciting, and as football always does, it tends to surprise you. I wasn't expecting sort of the hammering that Manly United delivered, getting up 5-1 over the Wanderers, so football always keeps you on your toes, and it's nice to experience that in round 1.
Very exciting to see you here, Annabelle, of course. We will hear from our other podcast co-hosts, Nicola Posda and Henley Warner, through the course of the season, but it's all about the guests as well, and we've got some really exciting guests coming up from our top-tier competitions in this edition. So make sure you stick around and listen. We'll get to a couple of important things off the top, and then we'll get into our guests. So, I mentioned you were commentating all matches in NPL New South Wales, men's and women's, and also League One match of the round, broadcast live, free and on demand on YouTube. Make sure you go to the Football New South Wales YouTube channel and subscribe. It is a hub of activity every weekend. Annabelle, you will be shocked to know that I was working last Sunday editing an A-League game on one computer, and then I had Sydney United 58 versus Central Coast men's in one tab, and then I had 3 NPL women's tabs open, including your game, and I had 3 voices coming at me. I wanted to hear your call, I wanted to hear Lockie Flanagan doing the call at Sydney United, and obviously I had to do my own job. So it was just, I was surrounded by football. Thankfully, work did get done.
It's the best way to be. It's the best way to be.
Well, and I was getting paid to do it. So, you know, I've had a lot of fun getting out and commentating as well this season. I've seen APIA at Lambert Park be well beaten by the NWS Spirit. Also got out to Sydney United 58. I must be their lucky charm because their only win at the time of recording at least was a game that I commentated out there. It's just great to be back on the ground. And is there a venue that you've got on your checklist that you're looking forward to getting out and calling at? North Turramurra or maybe Cromer Park? Where is it that you want to venture out to call the game this season?
Well, I'm at North Turramurra tomorrow night as of recording. I can't say I'm a massive fan there because you can barely see the pitch in some spots with benches in the way. For me, I'm really excited when Linwood gets finished and to head out there. I think it's a really nice setup that the Rams put on. And I think, there's plenty of places around this league that put on a really great fan experience.
And of course, there's also the on-the-ground social media stuff as well. I am finally going to be doing a match of the round coming up later this month. I'm looking forward to seeing Jude Dolan go to work and do all the social media stuff. He can have all the screen time as well. But Annabelle, you're going to be getting out and doing that as well. We saw Henley do a great job with Nicola last season, but you'll also be doing some match of the round stuff, getting out, doing the interviews, doing the socials, and it's a great way of sharing the on-the-ground experience, especially to the young audience who maybe haven't been as a spectator to NPL. Maybe they play at a community club and don't have that NPL connection, but it's a real great chance to go and see the environment and the atmosphere of what it's like at a game.
Absolutely. It's great to get on the sideline and see things from pitch level, and I'll try and document that for everyone watching along at home. And I think it's great because you see different angles, you see different insights into a game, often pre-game, half-time, post-game, you get different interviews and sort of crowd snippets. So it's a really exciting way to document the league.
And as we're going to hear in our chat for NPL Women's New South Wales, the level of amplification and attention on that competition is probably as high as it's ever been. It's being driven by a lot of the clubs, so it's only fitting that the league comes along for the ride and tries to drive it as well. On that note, Annabelle, what was your moment of since we last convened on the podcast, your first moment of the month for 2025?
For me, it was round one in the women's competition. Great way to kick things off for all teams, but UNSW got a big win, and Chloe Smith scoring a hat-trick in round one. Two absolutely fantastic finishes, and then a lovely penalty to finish it off and claim the hat-trick.
Well, my moment of the month, I think I'll pick Spirit's opening goal away at Lambert Park on the way to a 3-0 win, but it's as good a goal as you will see scored in NPL Men's New South Wales. The quality of the football has been something to behold, and I think there's a real energy around NPL level. I mean, the Australian Championship coming up at the end of the season has had a bit of a halo effect for some clubs, but Spirit, the only way they'll play in the Championship is if they finish as premiers of the league and qualify. It'd be fascinating to see exactly if they do. So, for a bit more insight into what's going on at NWS Spirit, let's go to our first guest here on Kickoff. Every NPL New South Wales match live, free and on demand on YouTube. Subscribe to the Football New South Wales YouTube channel today. So we start with NPL Men's New South Wales, right at the top of the division, at least at the time of recording. And David Perkovic, the coach of the Northwest Sydney Spirit, joins us as our guest. Firstly, David, congratulations on the start to the season. Is it something that you saw coming and were anticipating going into the first month, and the way that you've started the campaign?
I guess no one can kind of expect to win the first 5 games straight. But definitely from the time we started recruitment and from the pre-season, how we've looked in training, not so much in pre-season games, but how we looked in training, we knew we had the right people in the squad to try and make a statement in the league. So, but we're confident in what we had brought in and what we've retained at the club. So we definitely were looking at an improvement on our last 2 seasons.
You mentioned players that you've brought in. You've brought in 2 Japanese stars, Yu Okubo and Takumi Ofuka. How have those boys settled in with the group?
Yeah, great. They both came in, at the start of pre-season, and to be honest, there's been a lot of turnover in my squad this season. Obviously, they take the highlights because they're at the top end of the park and take the attributes of goals and assists and things like that. But yeah, they've settled in really well as the other new players that joined our club. So yeah, everything seems to be doing well, and they're performing, which is a good indicator on how they've settled in.
In any given season, there are always moments where the penny drops and the group, either starts believing or stops believing, regardless of whether it's a club chasing a title or a club battling relegation. But do you feel as though winning away at Blacktown City the way you did, 4-0, a stunning result at their home ground, was kind of the penny drop moment? Or did it come actually earlier in pre-season? Were there moments where you saw the buy-in from the group and the proof of concept didn't even need a big result like that one to show that you were on the right path?
Yeah, really good question. I think that there was always an element of excitement even in preseason, but there was no sort of performance in preseason that, as you say, the penny dropped for the team. I think there's a couple of critical parts to it. One was getting that late winner against Sydney FC. I felt like getting 3 points at home in our first game of the season was critical to set out the rest of the games that was forthcoming. The Blacktown game was also very convincing a performance. When we scored the second goal, they also got a man sent off. So whilst the team was really proud of that performance, away to Blacktown, regardless of the situation, and scoring 4 unanswered goals is always nice. They did play with 10 men, so I guess that probably wasn't the penny dropping. I think the APIA performance probably was the penny dropping for the squad, getting a real sense of belief. Looking forward into that game, you could see that the boys were up for it. They felt like they could match the traditional big boys of the league. So it was a really, really convincing performance. Not to concede and score 3 unanswered goals was probably that penny drop moment for us.
No club's progression is ever linear, and sometimes the best laid plans hit a lot of hurdles. But how does it feel to have earned promotion with this group consolidated in the division, and now you're making the big push towards finals and who knows how much further. Does it feel as though the building blocks are just falling one after another? Because that's how it looks from the outside, but take us inside. Just how difficult is it to find improvements and find ways to push the group to the next level that we may take for granted on the outside looking in?
Yeah, look, it's not just a squad per se thing to push. It's a whole club approach, and it starts with our president Frank Markey. He's an ambitious a person as I am. So I guess that's probably why we have worked together now for, I think this is my 8th season at the club. So yeah, look, it's building blocks. You can't go from where we were when I started with the club to where we are now without that slow progression. It's always trying to refine things as a club, what we're trying to do, and then within our circle of the first grade squad, we're trying to look ways to improve the personnel, to whether that be bringing in players, developing players. I think we have a nice blend at our club where we develop some really good players that come through. An example of that is Corey Kavanagh, who started with our club as a young lad, and drifted away to state teams and things, Swiss and things like that. But and went to NPL 1 and then come back to us as a very small 17-year-old, and now to see him dominating midfield in NPL 1 is a real credit to our club. And then you have your Kyle Shaws as well. He was started off at our club, went to Sydney FC, got released, came back to our club, played really good first grade football for the last couple of years, and now he's reaping the rewards back at Sydney FC. So it's refining what we do on the pitch as well as off the pitch, trying to make ways that the club can stay with the growth of the team as well. That's a challenge as well. And from our inner circle of our staff, we're always looking at ways to improve what we do. I feel like we've got a real balance within our staff of experience and different expertise. Performance, high performance coaching, psychology, and then obviously football coaching, and as well as analysis. We tick all those kind of boxes within our group of staff, so we're able to provide our players with what they need, and different players need different things. So we try to spread our wings in that sense to capture what our players needs and develop them from a psychological sense, and a physiological sense, as well as a tactical approach as well.
Now, it's been a big few years at the club, lots of milestones, multiple trophies, promotion, cup runs. What are you most proud of in your tenure at Spirit?
You can't obviously replace silverware. So winning the Waratah Cup a few years ago, and to be that only second tier team to win that trophy is something that the club is very, very proud of. It was in the same year that we got promoted, so that was another milestone for ourselves as well. But they're probably the two highlights, and then obviously having cup runs in the Australia Cup as well as last year. Playing Melbourne Victory at home was a really momentous occasion for the club as well. But they're all things that's in our past, and otherwise it's good to reflect on the past, and if to move forward, you need to know where you're coming from. So those are the benchmarks that we've set ourselves as now, and we're trying to achieve new milestones.
We've asked a lot of big picture questions about the growth of the club, but I wanted to get into sort of how you're deploying a lot of the players this season, because yes, the two Japanese nationals that are leading sort of lights, scoring goals, getting assists, they have been brilliant. But I mean, the way you've deployed Zayn Alawalia has caught my eye. Jordan Perez has been really influential, owning his left side of the pitch. And some of the guys that were so important last season, Jacob Chidiak, we saw Frankie Ljukovic appear during that cup run. Like, you've mixed it up and you have a bit of squad depth there to rotate through the team. So does that mean that there's more variety and more evolution of this squad as the season goes on, and your combinations and the way you'll use your squad will change through the course of the campaign?
Yeah, look, it's first and foremost, I guess it's the first time I've ever coached a so-called back five. So I picked a formation. Not that formation is everything in football. It's only a starting point, but I picked a formation based on the players that we have at our disposal. So I knew that I was bringing in some really good wing backs. So I decided to play with wing backs, and it's we don't really have that many traditional wingers, so I kind of abandoned that and bring in most of the time so far this season. You got Michael Conostarbo and Takumi Afuka playing off Akubo in that front three, but it's quite narrow. So we have very structured ways on in terms of how our structure is set up. But how we approach games, the coaching staff and I try to implore our footballers to look at what the opposition is giving them, because they'll always give you something. So we've shown this season that we can be direct. We've shown that we can knock the ball around, and so depending on how the opposition is approaching us will depend on how we play that game. So it's a very fluid approach to our game, and so far it's been working. So really pleased with the outcomes so far.
Yeah, and that shows your adaptability as a coach, I guess, and your, have professional coaching experience as well in the Philippines. And so personally for you, what are your coaching aspirations?
Good question. I haven't been asked that in a long time. So it's interesting. Like, obviously, when I started coaching, I had very clear objectives of where I wanted to end up. And like in any career, there's a lot of hurdles and challenges to overcome, and so as the older I've got and the experience that I've got in coaching, it started telling me not to put destinations as your goals, because they're things that's outside your control. I started to focus more on myself, and if I can deliver the best version of myself to the teams that I coach, then that gives me the best opportunities to have opportunities in football. I'm obviously very happy at Spirit, been there for a very, very long time, but I would like to have a crack at professional football again, ideally within Australia. That'll be a dream of mine to be able to have that challenge. I do back myself, to be honest. I'm very confident in my ability. So given an opportunity to do that at some stage of my career, that will be great.
Well, that leads quite nicely into our next question. Is you've got the perspective of coaching at what I would call one of the sort of 21st century names that's emerging, whether it's a Manly United or a Northwest Sydney Spirit or a Northern Tigers. We've got clubs that are now starting to rise up and genuinely take it to the former NSL establishment, sort of the blue bloods of the Football New South Wales competition, as they've been here for the best part of 20 years since the end of the NSL. So do you see that dynamic played out in the opponents you face week to week in this competition now that you've been in the top flight for a couple of years, that there is a distinguishable difference between a club that's ambitious and growing into something new like Spirit, especially you mentioned the cup run and getting your name out there on that national stage playing Melbourne Victory? Or am I reading too much into how much the heritage counts when it's a Marconi or a Sydney United that's your opposition on any given weekend?
No, I don't. I don't think so. Like, you look at world football, for example, and obviously we're a small, component of football compared to the rest of the world. But if you look at world football, you look at your Real Madrid's, the history, and the Barcelona's, the history of those clubs, makes it really difficult to come up against them in European Champions League. They just because it's ingrained in their culture. Within their club, and they got that historical backing, it's almost like these players on the pitch have an invisible push behind their backs when their back hits the wall, or it's a critical time in a fixture, whether that be a cup run in the Champions League or something like that. So those clubs find a way to win because they've been in those situations before, and it's so ingrained in their culture that organically it comes through players that just arrive to the club as well. You kind of have to respect that. You have to respect your history, but at the same time, on the flip side, you have to have. It's great to have that, but at the same time, you need to have a forward outlook on where your direction is as a club, where you want to be, where you want to be, how you want to get there. Just relying on history is not good enough. And so you need to have, it's great to have that historical backing because that's very, very valued. And you can speak of any player that's played for those historical clubs. It has some meaning to it for sure. It's the club's responsibility to make sure that they have foresight on what they want to do in the future and how they want to get there. And obviously, those clubs, many of them are going to go into the Australian Championship, so they've got another thing to look forward to moving forward. So, if those clubs that has the historical backing and has that foresight of where they want to be as a football club moving into the future, then they're in a really, really strong position. For a club like us, we kind of have a little bit of that historical because, we're born from the old Northern Spirit. But obviously our connections to that is nowhere near the Sydney United, Marconi's, the Olympics of our league. But we're trying to, we definitely have a clear direction of where we want to head to as a football club. And how we're going about it. With that, we have a clear plan on how we want to do that, and that seems to be working for us at the moment.
I know it's 4 months away, but humour me just for a moment. You mentioned the Australian Championship. If you did win the Premiership, how much arm twisting would you have to do to get your boys to commit to another 9 weeks of the season?
I don't think it would take much twisting at all. Footballers want to play football, so yeah. If given the opportunity, I'm sure any club, not just ours, that's if they were invited and it could happen, I'm sure it wouldn't take much for footballers wanting to play more football.
The only reason I ask is 3 of the top 4 at the moment are teams, of course, that don't have their hands up at the Premier. The Premier gets an automatic ticket, whoever finishes top at the end of the home and away. Now, we've asked some pretty in-depth and full-on questions, but we're going to have Annabelle ask you a couple of quick-fire ones to finish with here, David. So, Annabelle, take it away.
We're going to do a few opposition ratings for us, David. So firstly, fellow clubs, who's the biggest threat you've got this season?
Well, I think that goes... I think being only 5 games in, I think it's still open for everyone. Obviously we spoke about earlier the traditional clubs. They're always there or thereabouts. But being so early in the season, I don't think you can rule out anyone at this stage.
Who do you think will be the surprise packet for the year?
Us. After being a fairly newly promoted club, having 2 years in the league, 2 mid-table kind of finishes, I think so far it's us, and I hope it to continue.
Yeah, and who do you think is your biggest rival that you'll have to play this season?
Good question. We kind of don't have much of a traditional local rival at our club like we had in our past competition with Northern Tigers. I guess Hills was a bit of a rival as well, but I guess Manly and Blacktown's probably our closest rivals. But for me personally, it's probably Sydney United. Ever since we played them in the Waratah Cup final a few years ago, there's kind of been a little bit of a friendly rivalry, so to speak. Whether they see it that way or not, I'm not sure, but it's always, those games are always great to be at. It's always a closely contested game with a lot of passion. And obviously sentimentally for me, that was my childhood club as well. So probably Sydney United, I would say.
And we're going to put you on the spot a bit here. Can you pick a dream five-a-side team of players you've coached all time?
Oh, geez, that's tough. I've been coaching first grade football since 2011, so it's a lot of players I've coached in that time. Okay, first and foremost, I will eliminate any players that I coached in the Philippines because no one will know who they are. So I'll just choose within the boundaries of Australia. Five-a-side, okay. I'll spread it over my coaching career because obviously given where we sit on the table at the moment and being in the top league, a lot of my current players probably would be in it, but I'll try and spread it out a little bit. So in goals, I'll put Michael Frost. Frosty was goalkeeper for me at Fraser Park when I first started coaching first grade football. He was an Oliver Kahn / Peter Schmeichel styled keeper. He was just an absolute beast. He was a firefighter by day, so you can just imagine what kind of physique he was in. So, and absolute incredible shot stopper as well. So, I'll put him in goals. I think he's my longest standing player now that I've coached. I'll put Grant Cornwell at the back, my current captain. He's a kind of a bit of a stalwart. He's a no-nonsense kind of defender. And given what I'll probably choose for the rest of the spots, I'll need someone to be a ball winner in that five-a-side. So I'll go Grant Cornwell at the back. I'll go with two midfielders. This player for sure. Nefta Gonzalez. I coached Nefta at Mounties. I only had the pleasure of coaching him. I think he was 33 or 34 at the time. So I can just imagine what he would have been like in his prime. But Nefta was for his time being, he was at La Masia at Barcelona, playing within there. And he even got to play. He told me after a little quick story, after he left Barcelona and played with a local club, he had to play against Barcelona and he was lining up against Sergio Busquets. And he had a look at him and he was like, oh, I reckon I could take him. Told me he never got close to the ball. But he was an amazing player. And he did a bit of coaching in NPL as well. I don't think he's coaching at the moment, but genuinely guys like that we've got to keep in the game. So I'll go another midfielder, Kota Odokura, Japanese. I do. I've had a lot of Japanese players in my coaching career so far, but Kota was a player that was played for me for 4 years. Unfortunately, 2 of those years was in COVID years, but he was there when we won the Waratah Cup, and he's technically so gifted that he used to take corners on both sides with opposite feet. We had a penalty shootout to go to the round of 32 against Wollongong Wolves in that year that we won the Waratah Cup. And he's left-footed, but he decided to line up the penalty with his right foot, scored the goal, and then at the end of the penalty shootout, I asked him why he took it with his right. He said, I was cramping up a little bit on my left. So if you can be that technically gifted that you can just take a penalty with your opposite foot, I think he deserves to be in my top 5, that's for sure. And up front, striker, I'll go with Yua Kubo. He's whilst I've only coached him for a very short time, he's a special player. You can what he does in games is quite incredible, but you learn more about a player what he does in training. And yeah, he does some really incredible things, and his ability. He's not a big guy, but his strength, his ability in the air, how he brings things down on his chest, his technical ability, his nous for goals. He's definitely the striker I'd choose for that. 5-a-side team. So
well,
there you go.
You've run us through it in an awesome fashion, and anyone who's burning it, missing out, save the texts. We're having a bit of fun. But, both on the serious matters and the lighter stuff, David, thanks for being so giving with your time and also the answers you've had for us. We do acknowledge it is early days in a marathon of a season, but Spirit has brought some really refreshing and enlightened football to NPL Men's New South Wales to start the campaign, and we thank you for that so far, and all the best to you and your boys for the remainder of the season in both League and Cup, and may the good results and good fortune continue.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be on.
A big thanks to David Perkovic from NWS Spirit. What a great chat. I mean, we asked some pretty full-on questions in terms of you can take the answer wherever you want to go, and he gave us some really great insights.
He's very open, not divulging too many secrets, I guess, but sharing a lot of his experience with both Spirit and, his own personal coaching journey.
You can see why they're a club on the move, can't you? And it's great to hear the acknowledgement of the committee support, the ambition of the club's administration. We actually recorded this podcast out at Spirit during the Women's World Cup in 2023 when the French national team were using the pitches behind us here at Valentine Sports Park. So we got a first-hand insight into what they're hoping to do in both the men's and the women's space. And here we are, not even 2 years on, and they've got their men's team sitting top of the NPL. So they have a plan, they had ambition, and they're starting to realise it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every time you go out there, I've been out there a few times for commentary and social media, you feel the great culture that the club's built. They're incredibly supportive of all their players, especially, both senior men's and women's teams, and the way that they get people in to support that and help push that forward is really exciting to see.
So on kickoff, it's time to go to our next guest and flip over to NPL Women's New South Wales. Let's check in there.
Day after day, Kappa rewrites the concept of sportswear. Kappa means teamwork, past, present, and future. Kappa never stops, 'cause winning starts within. 2 people, 1 brand. Kappa.
So to our NPL Women's New South Wales guest, and we are going to one of the biggest names in the competition, thanks in no small part to our podcast colleague Nicola Posda, who pumped this up as the biggest transfer in the history of NPL Women's New South Wales. I'm not sure if our guest feels the same way. I guess we're about to find out. Mel Caceres, APIA Leichhardt, of course, formerly of the Macarthur Rams. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me here. Really excited to chat to you both.
So as Teo said, you've made this really high-profile move from the Rams to APIA. How did this come about? What made you want to make the crosstown switch?
Yeah, I think the high-profile part is it's a lot to take in, but trying to embrace it definitely. I guess coming from the Rams, I had a lot of success there, but I guess it comes to a point in a club where I guess there's a bit of change to personnel, and I think we've seen a lot of players not returning there. So it seemed like a good opportunity to perhaps seek a new challenge. And after speaking to a few clubs, I sat down with Matteo, and I guess what he said was that obviously the club wants to achieve big things. They provide a great environment. So for me, it was a no-brainer to make a move to what I think is a massive club in the NPL, and who are now really pushing forward in the women's space. So it's great to be a part of that, definitely.
I guess your career from starting out in juniors through to being an established senior player now coincides with the emergence of the old W League into the A-League Women's, the Matildas breaking out and raising the profile of women's football as much as they have. And did you feel as though it was inevitable that the way APIA have treated their women's team and announced their signings, yourself included, that was an inevitable flow-on effect of the raising profile of the game and sort of how it flows on to each level of competition?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've really noticed it this season in particular. Not just APIA, but I think other NPL clubs have really tried to push their women's team. You can see it a lot in social media and the extra efforts they've put in. And I guess also APIA being the first club to offer memberships and to pay to watch us play. So for me, it's a big thing. It's a huge step in the right direction, I think, for the game. So yeah, it's nice to be part of this time in women's football.
And as you mentioned, APIA, now offering memberships, they're still getting great turnouts to the ground. Every time you're there, you can hear all the juniors getting in on the chants. What's it like sort of now on the other side of things, being part of that APIA culture?
Yeah, it's funny because obviously I remember going to play at Lambert Park, and obviously you would hear the crowds and the people yelling on the sideline, and you're kind of like, oh, all right. But now kind of being the player that they're supporting is definitely a nice change, and motivating to hopefully give them a good experience and enjoy the game as well.
And with APIA, lots of people have said you're the front runner to win everything this year. Is that something you're talking about, or is it sort of unspoken in the change room?
Yeah, look, I think for us, there has been quite a little bit of, I could say, hype around the team. I think it's just important for us to kind of focus on what we're doing internally, focus on each week winning every game. And I think that if we're putting out good performances and picking up 3 points, ultimately it will lead to some sort of silverware. So I would be lying to say that if that's not a goal of ours, but I think we kind of just need to focus week by week, and hopefully, yeah, that'll lead us in the right direction.
You've had a pretty interesting journey in that you were on the books of Sydney FC, you never got that debut. I still remember you scoring on your eventual A-League Women's debut for the Wanderers in Tamworth, but you also had an injury-affected season. Tell us about some of the hurdles you've had to overcome, because at your best you are a phenomenal player, but just how many times have there been obstacles in the way, and how many times have doubts appeared that, you know, what you want to achieve and what you want to do in the game just started to feel too far away?
Yeah, I think to start off with, as a youngster, being part of that Sydney FC team was unreal. The talent that we had in that team and the people I was able to learn off was a great experience. Unfortunately, yeah, I had a few upsets and low times with injuries, a couple of ACL injuries. I think at a time that was maybe an important part of my development in terms of breaking into the A-League consistently. But I guess for me, I just obviously love the game so much. So I just put my head down and kept working. So I think eventually I got my chance, and I think I took it well. But then again, yeah, I think football has a lot of lows, unfortunately, and obviously highs as well that I've been able to experience. But I think you just got to deal with it, take it in your stride. And I think not done yet, but looking back on my career, lots of good memories and things to be proud of for sure.
Well, you say that. I mean, a little birdie told me that there was some arm twisting to try and get you to play A-League Women's this summer, but just the team that was making the offer and maybe the circumstances of your own life meant that it wasn't really viable. Is that door closed? Is NPL your focus going forward, or if the right team and the right circumstances appeared, would you still be open to returning to the National League?
Yeah, for me, it was a very difficult decision. Obviously, it's always hard to say no and walk away to a contract at the top level. I think that's where everyone really wants to be playing. We speak about how far the game's come, but for me personally, to be transparent, the league is still not full-time or year-round. So that kind of led to my decision to maybe not play this year. But I mean, the door's always open. Never say never. But yeah, for now, my focus is on APIA and having a good season with them, achieving obviously good things, and then opportunities may come from that. And I guess we'll reassess when that happens.
Oh, look, and it's no surprise to hear that. I mean, one of your teammates, Ashley Crofts, joined us and said something very similar on last year's podcast. And we speak to a lot of adult women's players who are in their 20s and have, you know, they've finished uni, they've finished their studies, they're in a position where they need to work. They have lives. And if football isn't your full-time job, it's just not possible to commit to the National League. But Annabelle, where would you like to take the conversation next?
I think you mentioned, obviously, we've been chatting about the A-Leagues. You've got Anthony, who plays for Sydney FC, your brother. How special is it to have, you know, family playing at that high level, and how do you guys support each other?
Yeah, I think my brother is someone that I think of recently has had a great run of form, and ultimately he's been rewarded with that, which is always nice to see. Very proud of the things he's achieved. I think growing up, I guess I always looked up to what he could do on the ball. He's obviously very technically gifted, and I think in a way he's heavily influenced the way I play. So yeah, he's always following what we're doing, and I would like to say that he's now a fan of the APIA women's team for sure.
Is this, again, his breakthrough? Is it something that just lights a bit of a fire in you that, regardless of, I know you don't hit your 30s for, a few years yet. Let's kick that down the road. But does it light a fire in you that if you're playing your best, anything's possible?
Yeah, I think it just goes to show that obviously he made his Socceroos debut in his 30s. And I think, like I said, he's in great form now. So I would say learning from his experience, it's never too late to kind of make that leap and still continue to achieve good things into your 30s as well. So yeah, definitely.
Now, just the way the fixture worked, first game for APIA at the weekend was against your old club at MacArthur, but a very different looking MacArthur, a much younger MacArthur. Was it disorienting to see the shirt as the opponent, but also who was in the shirt and so many unfamiliar faces? It's like a generational change happened overnight.
Yeah, correct. It was a bit surreal being on the other side. I mean, there were still some familiar faces. Obviously, I saw some players step up who were in the reserve grade or under 23s last year. But yeah, Rams, I guess I've achieved a lot of things. I'll always have a special place in my heart. But yeah, it was interesting being on the other side, but I'm someone who hates losing, so definitely was happy to get the win as well.
Now, I don't know if you heard the season preview podcast or if it's the sort of thing that, the coach takes and says, they're saying this about you, they're saying that about you, And I suggested that maybe, there were plenty of games that APIA didn't win last season and that, a procession to victory on all fronts will have its challenges along the way. What do you see internally, though, as the number one thing the team is working on to make yourselves hard to beat? Like, what are the things the coaches are asking the most of you to work on and improve in these early rounds of the season?
I think the belief within the squad. Sometimes a lot of the outside noise can make people maybe a little bit nervous or think that the expectation is very high. But I think we have the quality players, like we said. I think we've got a good balance of young and experienced players. So I think we've got the perfect mixture. I think for us, it's just really people stepping up, that leadership role to be filled by us senior players, and just a little bit of that extra hunger to really win these games, and every 3 points count. So I think to learn from last season where they probably did drop a few points where they shouldn't have, this year hopefully it'll be different and we really capitalise on every point possible.
And just one more on the APIA setup. Did you know personally most of their players, or was it a case of walking into their rooms and seeing the faces that had been opponents for years and getting to know them? And is anyone as a teammate now totally different to how you perceived them when they were a rival on an opposition team in years gone by?
Yeah, look, walking into a new team is always a bit daunting, I think, for anyone. You just hope that they like you and you get along with everyone. I think playing against a lot of the players over the years, I guess you kind of get to know each other. But yeah, there's nothing like being in a team with them and actually really getting to know the person. I wouldn't say anyone surprised me. Getting along with everyone very well. The team vibe is great. They made me feel so welcome. But yeah, no, I can't say no one's really stood out and caused any issues. So everyone's been great.
No, just, some players have long memories. There might have been a tackle here or a word there that sticks in the memory, and then you actually get to meet him and, you're actually, a ripper person. All is forgiven. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that they've taken you under your wing straight away.
There's definitely some stick about the grand final and the penalty shootout. So that's always a bit of banter to go back and forth. But yeah, I'm just excited to be playing with them, definitely.
Great. And we'll just end. We've got some opposition ratings. We want to hear what you think of sort of some other teams around the league. Who do you think is your biggest threat for silverware this season?
Yeah, so biggest threat. It's an interesting one, difficult one, because I think that the league is so even this season. It's hard to think of one particular threat. I think that if we're not kind of ready for every match, that every team could be a threat to take points of us. So it's kind of hard to narrow it down on that one, to be honest. I think everyone's a threat.
Very political answer there, but who are you most looking forward to playing? Maybe you've already played them in round one?
Yeah, I think Rams was definitely one that I looked at and looked forward to playing against. Like I said, special place in my heart, great memories, but yeah, I hate losing. So getting the 3 points and winning that one was definitely a nice feeling.
And who do you think is a team that could surprise everyone this year?
Surprise, like I said, even competition, but just thinking about it, I would say the newly promoted Mount Druitt have some quality signings. Obviously, Lena Karma's coming back in. So, yeah, potentially Mount Druitt, maybe.
They got the win in round one, so could be onto something there. And I guess you've played with a lot of very talented players, and if you could narrow it down, we'd like to know your favourite sort of five-a-side team of teammates you've had across your career. And you can't pick yourself. That's the one stipulation.
All right, five-a-side. Obviously, got to start with a keeper. Or are we doing all outfield play? Yeah, keeper.
Start with the keeper. It's your dream team, but give us a keeper and 4 outfielders.
All right, so in goals, let's put Sham Karmas. I think not only is she a beast in goals, but the leadership and the chat that obviously at the Rams and at Wanderers I was getting from behind was next level. So I think in that sense she brings a lot. Then I'm gonna throw my best mate in there, Amy Harrison. We'll put her in there, new centre back role. Obviously technically gifted, composed, and another good leader from the back now. And then we'll throw some superstars in there. I think you can't go past Sam Kerr in that Sydney FC team. Don't think I need much of the explanation of why I'm putting her in there. And then let's throw Lena Karmas. I've already given her a shout out, but obviously played with her at Sydney, played with her at Rams. She's a striker that can join in play, can finish. And I guess a couple of years ago, she came off the bench and won us that important grand final. So she comes up in big moments, which is important. And well, I guess another no-brainer would be from that Sydney FC team is Caitlin Ford, who I think is an unbelievable player and doesn't need much explanation as to why she would be in anyone's five-a-side team for sure.
Maybe we should have let you choose yourself. Who are you tagging in for then? Who if you have to come off the sideline, who do you bring to the bench?
Yeah, look, I think I picked a bit of an attacking team. We don't have many defenders out there, so I think I'd have to probably tap in for Lena or Amy. I don't think you can really replace Sam or Caitlin. So yeah, I throw myself in there.
Well, Mel, thanks for your answers, both on the in-depth at APIA and also your personal journey. We're looking forward to seeing what this team is capable of this season, and obviously it is only at the time of talking one round into the season, but your signing and also what APIA is doing has helped really amplify the competition and get the word out there that the NPL women's season is back. So thanks for having a chat to us, and enjoy the rest of your season.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
A big thanks to Mel Caceres joining us from APIA Leichhardt. It's only 1 week at the time of recording into the season, Annabelle. Now, I had to be the bad guy last week, and you try to just pump the brakes on APIA, winning every game and taking all before them. Thankfully, it did not blow up my phone. I think Poster got most of the backlash, actually. But look, I think MacArthur, with a totally new look team, they need a lot of credit because they're going to be rebuilding and readjusting their entire club with a lot of the familiar names from the three-peat no longer there. What were your impressions of how they took on round one in that 2-0 defeat to APIA?
I think they showed that, they're not to be counted out. Even though it's a new look era for the MacArthur Rams, it doesn't mean that they're down the bottom or anything like that. They've still got plenty of talent in the side, just a little bit younger, a little bit less experienced than we've seen in the past. And I think they're still a side that will shock a lot of people.
I'm looking forward to seeing the progress and development of that team during the season, but of course, all credit to the winners in round one. This is Kickoff, the official podcast of Football New South Wales Leagues competitions and NPL competition, but it's our Leagues focus that's coming up next. MITA is the official ball sponsor of NPL New South Wales and Football New South Wales Leagues competitions. Visit MITA Sports Australia for all your football needs. MITA, a different league. So it is time for our Leagues focus, and today we are looking at League One Men's and the Southern District Raiders. Joining us from SD Raiders is Noah Chianese. Noah, thanks for jumping on and joining us. How's the start of the season gone so far at the Raiders?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. So this year, at the moment we're in a good spot. Winning games, we're 5 in a row at the moment. So when you're winning, the vibe's always going to be good. Everyone's excited. We've had a good start. Everyone's happy, and we're just keen to keep doing what we're doing. Hopefully, keep these results flowing, and then everyone's excited. Come to training. Everyone wants to be there. We're all putting in the good effort, but we're not getting too carried away with ourselves. We just want to take it game by game, and then just see where that takes us. Hopefully, towards the end of the year.
We know that the league is a marathon, of course, a 30-game season in the second tier. It's as sort of hard and demanding a second-tier competition as any in the country, I would suggest. So is this a start to the season that you saw coming? Was it anticipated amongst the group that you could make the flying start that you have?
Each year I think we've gotten better. So I think this year, with the year we had last year, we got a bit unlucky with some of our results. So I think coming into this year, we did speak about that, we were arguably sort of one of the top sort of half teams. And then obviously you come into the year, you want to win as many games as you can. You don't want to come in thinking you just want to fight to not get relegated. You want to come into with the mindset that you're going to get promoted. Otherwise, what's the point of sort of rocking up if you don't want to win?
And you've just mentioned their promotion, which would be a key aim for the club. How special would that be for not just SC Raiders, but the whole sort of area and the community?
Yeah, of course. So, like I said, you want to come into the season with the mindset of getting promotion. I think given the area we are in, we're surrounded by, I guess, bigger clubs. I guess is the quote unquote bigger clubs. We're a bit of a smaller club. So, it's obviously tough competing with them with, Marconi, Bonnyrigg, Sydney United. So they've all had success in their careers. So it's been tough sort of competing, but, getting another team in that sort of NPL 1 competition would be perfect for the area.
Before we talk about your own form, who are some of the teammates and some of the players that have made this start to the season happen? What are you noticing out there as some of the guys that are saying, let's have this good start, but who's putting in the performances to make it happen?
I think, especially last year, and we're moving on to this year as well, our defence has been sort of our biggest part. Our defence has we've kept 3 clean sheets in a row. We've only conceded 2 or 3. So I think defensively, our whole back line, our keeper has made some very good saves. He's probably been one of our players of the season. We've got another player, Lachlan McGrath. He's been hasn't put a foot wrong all the season. So yeah, I think if it was to put it on sort of one aspect, what's the key to our success so far? I'd say defensively, everyone's just putting in that effort first.
It's funny you say that because you had the best defensive in the league last season, but obviously only 7th place to show for it. So is that something that's just ingrained in the culture of the club, the way you play and the way you're coached, or season to season with player turnover? Is it 2 unique groups that both just happen to have good defensive records?
I think it's a bit of both there. I think we've put in the hard yards at training. Obviously, pre-season, that's the prime mindset is if you don't concede a goal, you're more likely to win, obviously. So that's been a priority. Get fit, make sure we don't concede goals, and then hopefully we can score. Last year, unfortunately, we had a bit of a rough sort of first half of the season where we just couldn't score. It picked up towards the end as we went on a bit of a run, but left a bit too late. So this year, hopefully, it's so far so good. We've been scoring and keeping clean sheets. So yeah, it's just the aim is just to keep that going.
Yeah, you've been scoring plenty of goals for the side. What's changed that you've worked on to try and get on the score sheet a bit more this season?
Yeah, thankfully, I've scored some. It's always good to get that sort of monkey off your back early. That way you can start building that confidence and just keep it going. I don't know. I guess the main thing. I guess it sounds a bit rude, but I've been a bit more selfish. I guess in front of goal, I've always been kind of a pass first, get my teammates involved, just sort of anything to win, even if it's not the right option. But I think, so far, I think this year I've just been a bit more selfish. And then obviously the boys make it 10 times easier they put on the hard yards. All I got to do is tap it in, really. So but it's still, I'm in the right spots. I'm doing the right thing, and I guess that's the biggest change, I think.
Gee, the division looks so different without Mount Druitt in there this season. Bulls have made a bit of a slower start, so a couple of last season's top teams aren't firing from the get-go. I mean, when you look at the competition, I mean, Newcastle Jets, finally getting it together with their academy team, playing in the NPL, having been down in the tier below for some years. Who do you actually see out there, and what's the word around the division as to who are some of the other contenders for promotion that need to be reckoned with?
Yeah, so I think I've been in this sort of League One for a few years now, so I've been in here for a while, so I've sort of seen the league develop and grow into what it is now. I think a few years ago, you'd go into some games thinking this is an easy win. We shouldn't have too much trouble. I think now I think most of the games now, if not all of them, it's a battle. There's not really many easy games. Every team can put up a good fight and can win on the day. If I had to pick sort of the top 2, 3, 4 teams, I think UNSW, obviously they've had a very good start. They're a good team. They move the ball well. They play a good brand of football. I think obviously the academy sides, they're always putting up a good fight. They're just next level, so they're always tough to verse. And I think probably Bonnyrigg and Bankstown are the next two, I'd say. Bankstown United, they've got the funds, but they've got the players and the mindset to sort of push through. So I think they'd be my options there.
And with SD Raiders, sort of give us a bit of insight into the club behind the scenes with coaching and sort of the way the club's structured. What's setting you guys up for success with this season?
Yep. So I think, the club I think their youth they've done a very good job sort of setting up that system with our STAT programs and all the younger age groups. You can see with last season, I think besides the A-League clubs, I think our youth was 3rd or 4th. So they're putting in that groundwork early. They're promoting like a culture of positivity. They want to make sure that we're winning, but it's set in from a young age, and you can see that over the last couple of years.
Now, the long term, of course, a long way away, so let's not get carried away with it. But in the short term, when you're winning, it's a great feeling around a club. So how long can this keep up? I mean, were your results in pre-season suggesting that, this was just going to roll on, or is it actually when things were for points that you clicked as a team and it all came together?
I think, thankfully, we've got a good bunch of boys. I think we've got no egos. No one sort of thinks they're better than the rest. So we've clicked on that level. I think pre-season was a bit sort of here and there. We had a few injuries and not a bit of consistency. We tested our new formation. But I think, obviously, when it comes to points, everyone puts that extra effort in. Everyone wants to win. Nobody wants to lose. So I think it's just, we got that first win. You get the second one, and I think that confidence builds. And then once you get that rolling, I guess it's kind of hard to bring the mood down. And it's just up to us now. And really, the results are in our hands. No one else is to blame if we lose, if we play bad. So it's just putting in the effort, work hard, and then hopefully the results come with that.
Now, many of our listeners will know you, and they'll be listening to this segment to get an insight into the SD Raiders, but a lot will have heard your last name and may not be totally familiar that, of course, you are the brother of Joel Chianese. Is his career still going? I mean, last check he was playing in Perth, but what's the latest? Is he still playing NPL WA, or is he back in New South Wales? What's the latest?
So he's still living over in Perth. He's still playing over there. So he's enjoying it now. He's a bit older, so I think it's more of a just keep the legs ticking, stay young, stay fit while he can. But yeah, he's still playing. He's still up and about.
Do you compare notes? Do you have a sibling rivalry, or do you support each other's football? How's the dynamic?
Yeah, I guess you could say a rivalry, but we've always been sort of supportive of each other. Like there's never been any like sort of cold blood. I guess having a sibling that plays at a higher level, you always want to try match that. You always want to try be better and say you're the better brother. But like obviously it didn't happen, unfortunately, on my behalf. But I think if you went and asked ahead all our family and friends, I think they'd all tell you the same thing, that I was the better brother. Sorry, they'd all tell you the same thing.
Well, I mean, let's not sell short just how difficult it is to win League One and how special it would be to win promotion to NPL Men's New South Wales. But it's a very long season. We are excited by the start that your team has made to the campaign, and we wish you all the best for the rest of the season. Thanks for the check-in and letting us know how things are going at Raiders.
Too easy. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Big thanks to our guest, Noah Chianese from SD Raiders. And so that's it for kickoff for this episode. Annabelle, it's a pleasure to have you on. We have 3 fantastic guests today. Credit to our producer, Mark Stav at Football New South Wales, the media manager. He always knows where to go to find the best talkers and the most insightful guests.
Yeah, it was great to hear from 3 different people with different experience. We had a coach on with David Perkovic, very talented, women's player with Mel Caceres, and Noah Chianese wrapped it all up, talking about his experience with the SD Raiders, which was great to have all those perspectives on.
Now, we are only getting a little snippet of what's going on around these competitions, but the season is only young. You can go back and listen to our season preview podcasts for both the men's and the women's by subscribing to Kickoff and just going back through the catalogue wherever you get your podcasts. Annabelle Banfield, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Teo. It's been a pleasure.
My name's Teo Pellizzeri. Thank you for joining us on Kickoff, the official podcast of Football New South Wales, Leagues competitions, and of course, NPL Men's and Women's New South Wales. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, rate us 5 stars, and we'll see you next time.
Picks the top corner. Each perfect dash crossed, and oh my word, what a save.
She gets around Dunbar. Out wide, but she puts it in the net. Lovely strike, lovely bit of play.
Oh, and he's looking to catch the goalkeeper out. It is an unbelievable goal.